Something pretty disturbing happened in Circleville, starting small and flourishing over decades. Residents began to receive letters that accused the citizens of being involved in some pretty terrible things: embezzlement, domestic violence, affairs, and even murder.
The Circleville letter writer knew everything about everyone and knew everyone's secrets.
They were vicious and ugly. Somebody with some severe psychological problems, I would hazard to guess.
The threatening anonymous letters kept coming, hundreds of them. Most were postmarked from Columbus, Ohio, about 30 miles north, which is where I grew up and where I was living in March of 1977. When small-town Circleville began to feel under siege, when just a walk to the mailbox could trigger terror, especially in the case of one woman who lived here, a school bus driver by the name of Mary Gillespie.
Mary Gillespie goes out to her mailbox. She receives a letter. She opens it. It's an anonymous letter, distinct handwriting, and it's telling her to end the affair with the superintendent of the school there, Gordon Massey.
Mrs. Gillespie, stay away from Massey. I've been observing your house, and I know you have children.
It's your daughter's turn to pay for what you've done. I shall come out there and put a bullet in that little girl's head. These letters were being sent to newspapers, elected officials, private citizens.
And they're all saying the same thing, that basically Gordon Massey, the superintendent, he needs to be exposed, he needs to be fired. Her husband, Ron, begins to receive them as well.
Mr. Gillespie, your wife is seeing Gordon Massey. You should catch them together and kill them both. He doesn't deserve to live.
Well, he got letters saying that if he didn't do something about this affair, his life would be in danger.
We know what kind of car you drive. We know where your kids go to school.
By August of 1977, everything changes when Ron Gillespie gets a call late one night. Enraged, he picks up a gun, gets in his truck, and drives off.
And told the daughter that he was going to confront the letter writer. He was traveling at a high speed, lost control of the truck, went off the road, hit a tree, and was killed. The letter writer had made threats to Ron Gillespie that he could end up dead. Then he ended up dead.
Was Ron Gillespie's death an accident, or was he murdered?
Murdered.
This case has really left its mark.
Yeah, and it's destroyed a lot of people.
I think there was a big cover-up.
Turned out to be quite a mystery.
Do you think you know who wrote those anonymous letters?
Yes, I do.
Circleville, Ohio has the look and feel of a quaint Midwestern town.
In many ways, it's sort of an all-American town. Still has a pretty rural character to it, and some families have been there for decades.
Its major attraction, says journalist Martin Yant, is the annual pumpkin show.
Let's give him a big hand of applause, guys.
Well, it was a good place to live. Fairly peaceful till all this stuff started.
Janet Cassidy is talking about that barrage of anonymous poison pen letters that began arriving in mailboxes all over Circleville in 1977.
Small towns have big secrets, buried deep under those freshly mowed lawns.
It caught the attention of Marie Mayhew, who researched the story for her podcast, Whatever Remains.
This anonymous author was hell-bent to expose every little ugly secret in Circleville.
At first, the writer seemed fixated on the married school district superintendent.
Gordon Massey was a well-thought-of man in Circleville.
And his rumored relationship with the school bus driver.
Mary Gillespie was a wife and a mother. They were accusing her of adultery.
You've got the superintendent possibly having an affair with a school bus driver? Wasn't that kind of the talk of town?
Yeah, it was. Definitely.
June Whitehead grew up in Pickaway County with her sister Janet.
Have you seen Mary's picture? She was Miss Jackson.
She looks really attractive there.
Yes, she was.
Mary married her high school sweetheart, Ron Gillespie.
And you wouldn't find a better person than Ronnie Gillespie.
The couple had 2 children and settled in Circleville. I mean, this had to be very awkward for Mary Gillespie, for her children, for Gordon Massey, for his wife, for his son.
It must have been awful. I mean, it was just sort of this all-invasive poison. There was nobody that was off limits to this letter writer.
And it wasn't just a campaign of letters. There were phone calls and offensive signs that began appearing along Mary's bus route.
Ron would have to go out, and he would have to find and pick up all the signage about his wife and kids around Circleville.
Determined to stop the writer, the Gillespies brought their letters to the sheriff's office.
There was an ongoing investigation. They were tapping phones. They were watching houses. They tried to work with the USPS to check the mail.
But the letters continued, and small-town Circleville was consumed with speculation. Was the writer male or female? Did the writer live in town? Then, in August 1977, Mary left her husband and children at home and drove to Florida with her sister-in-law.
Ron had told her he knew who the letter writer was, and he was going to take care of this problem while they were in Florida.
They were en route when they learned that Ron had crashed his truck into a tree after getting that mysterious phone call. The coroner ruled his death an accident, but Ron's brother-in-law, Paul Freshour, believed he had been murdered.
Although a number of people told me that he was not a heavy drinker, he had almost twice the legal limit of alcohol in his blood.
Also suspicious, under Ron's body, police found a .22 caliber revolver.
The gun had been fired once, so then the question was he shooting at the letter writer? The sheriff didn't give that any credence at all.
But Paul Freshour kept pushing the Pickaway County Sheriff to take a closer look. Pam Stanton was close to the Freshours.
He wanted the truth about Ron's death. He wanted to know who was writing the letters, too.
The attacks on Mary Gillespie and Gordon Massey didn't stop. Now letters were also being sent to local businesses, government offices, schools, and people who lived in the area.
This person was, at that point, pretty unbound, not afraid to say anything. And it scared a lot of people. You know, is he coming after me or is she coming after me?
Mary had always denied having an affair with Massey, but after Ron's death, she says they began seeing each other. And that's when the threats against her became even more vicious.
Everyone knows what you have done. If you don't believe us, just make them mad and find out for yourself.
Robin Yoakum writes mysteries, but back in the early 1980s, he was a crime reporter for the Columbus Dispatch.
There were obscenities and threats to do harm to Mrs. Gillespie's daughter. It's your daughter's turn to pay for what you've done.
On February 7, 1983, Mary Gillespie was driving her empty school bus heading to pick up kids. It's 3:30 p.m. She's about to turn left here on 5 Points Pike when she looks over there and sees a handmade sign on a fence. It talks about her 13-year-old daughter, and it's obscene. So she pulls the bus over here, but when she goes over there to try to pull the sign off the fence, she realizes that it's rigged to twine in a box. She says she takes that box home. She then opens it and gets a shocking surprise.
It was a gun, and it was ready to go off.
When Mary brought the box to the sheriff's office, investigators quickly realized it was a booby trap. Yoakum was in the newsroom when word got out.
And I remember the excitement. From a newspaper perspective, it's a great story. A woman who had been the target of all these letters finds a booby trap with a .25 caliber handgun rigged to it. All reporters would want to cover that story.
Especially if there was a dramatic twist. And when did Paul Freshour become the suspect?
Pretty quickly.
There's small-town intrigue. A seemingly omnipresent, unknown villain extracting revenge on the people of Circleville by uncovering their secrets. A mysterious death, an elaborate attempted murder.
To this day, there's a fierce debate about who that villain is or was. So we'll take you back through the evidence and the theories, and you could decide. This sounds like something out of an Agatha Christie novel, doesn't it?
It does. There's a cast of characters, the letters would keep coming, and then the inevitable attempted murder, but it is very much an Agatha Christie feel to it.
And just like one of Christie's mysteries, the gun found in the booby trap provided the first clue. Firearm examiners at BCI, Ohio's Bureau of Criminal Investigation, were able to restore the partially filed off serial number.
And when they traced the gun, it came to a co-worker of Paul's. He said, yeah, I sold that to Paul Freshour.
On the surface, says Martin Yant, it was shocking because Paul Freshour and his wife Karen Sue had been close to Mary Gillespie and her late husband Ron, Karen Sue's brother.
It was kind of an extended family that seemed to socialize together.
But by 1983, when sheriff's investigators went to talk to Karen Sue, the Freshours were in the midst of a contentious divorce.
Karen Sue gave them quite an earful.
She told investigators that Paul had become infuriated with Mary.
Karen said that Paul had thought the world of Ron and Mary before Ron died. But after his death, Paul hated Mary, hated her over the Massey deal.
And then Karen Sue told them that her estranged husband was behind Circleville's anonymous letters.
She had found one letter torn up in a commode, and she had found a couple of other letters hidden in the house.
When investigators went to see Paul Freshour, Marie Mayhew says he was very cooperative. Did he demand to have a lawyer?
No, he answered all of their questions.
And readily admitted the gun belonged to him.
Well, they asked him how the gun ended up in the booby trap, and he said, I don't know.
Freshour told investigators his gun had been stolen weeks earlier and allowed them to search his house and his car. He even gave them samples of his handwriting.
It definitely does seem like he has absolutely nothing to hide at that point.
He denied being the letter writer and said he had nothing to do with the booby trap, but he failed a polygraph. So Paul Freshour was arrested for the attempted murder of Mary Gillespie. Were you surprised when he was charged with attempted murder?
Yes. Yeah, I was.
This was the man Pam Stanton called Uncle Paul and says their families were so close, she thought of him as a second father.
I mean, was he worried? His life was on the line, his freedom. Yeah, he was scared anybody would be.
Fresh Hour was never charged with sending any of the threatening, harassing letters, but in Circleville, there was an assumption that the letter writer was finally behind bars. On October 24, 1983, Paul Freshour went on trial at the Pickaway County Courthouse in Circleville.
It was a big deal.
Robin Yoakum didn't cover the trial, but he followed all the news coverage.
You know, he was the mastermind behind this alleged booby trap, but almost everything focused on the letters.
First up was the intended victim, Mary Gillespie. She testified about finding the booby trap, and then, over defense objections, she was asked about the anonymous letters she had received. How damaging was that to Paul Freshour at his trial?
That was very, very damaging.
The defense argued there was no direct threat to Mary's life in the letters, so they weren't relevant to the case. But the judge allowed in 39 of them. It was a break for the prosecution, who claimed the writing on the booby trap shared similarities to those letters.
The letter and the writing that was on the 2x4 was the same block handwriting, sort of the same cadence and the same message as the anonymous letter writer.
The state brought in the BCI handwriting analyst who compared the writing on the booby trap to the letters sent to Mary and then to samples of Paul Freshour's handwriting.
They had handwriting analyses that indicated that the letters could have been written by Paul Freshour.
And a second expert, originally a defense witness, agreed. I mean, that's pretty damaging, isn't it? When a witness hired by the defense ends up testifying for the prosecution?
I can only imagine it was something you'd want to avoid.
It was far more difficult for the prosecution to prove Freshour made the booby trap. Was Paul Freshour's fingerprints found on the gun or the box that held the gun?
No. And they didn't have a whole lot of evidence about the booby trap other than he admitted that was his gun.
There was circumstantial evidence. Freshour had taken the day off from work the same day the booby trap was found. And that box that held the gun, an industrial-sized chalk box like this one, was easily found at Anheuser-Busch, where Paul worked.
They had his gun in the booby trap, and they had the chalk box, so they thought they had plenty of evidence.
But no one saw Freshour near the booby trap.
He had a pretty good alibi for most of the day.
Paul Freshour didn't take the stand, but multiple defense witnesses testified to seeing him at home. He was having work done on his house, the reason he said he took the day off.
As the trial progressed, I'm thinking, a lot of this stuff just doesn't add up. You know, where are the fingerprints? Where's the physical evidence?
But it was enough evidence for the jurors. They found Paul Freshour guilty of attempted murder. How did you hear the verdict? Even after all this time, it's still hard, isn't it?
I got home, and everybody was just a basket case. They were crying, everybody was upset.
He received the maximum sentence, 7 to 25 years in prison. When Paul Freshour was convicted, did everybody in town breathe this sigh of relief? The letter writer is caught. It's over.
I think that's a fair assessment. They've linked him to the letters. They linked him to the booby trap. We're going to get this guy out of our community, get him in prison. Everything will kind of go back to normal. Except it didn't, because the letters never stopped. Paul was living a pretty good life, had never had any problems with the law. Basically, he lost everything. Lost his home, lost his job, went to prison.
It was inconceivable to Paul Freshour's family and friends that the man they so admired could be convicted of attempted murder.
It's just preposterous. There's no way.
He wasn't dumb enough to put his own gun in a booby trap. And anybody could have gotten that gun.
And even today, former investigative journalists Martin Yant and Robin Yoakum question whether Freshour's verdict was fair.
Can I tell you, I'm not 100% sure that he didn't do it? No, I can't. But I can tell you, had I been sitting on that jury, I would have never sent a guy to prison based on that flimsy evidence.
The more I got involved in the case, the more I saw there were just too many question marks.
At trial, the prosecution had branded Paul Freshour the Circleville letter writer. But once he was locked up, how did menacing anonymous letters keep coming?
I'm not talking about one or two letters. There were hundreds of letters that went out after he was in prison.
The Pickaway County Sheriff couldn't say how Freshour was able to write and send those letters, but he was certain Paul was responsible. The prison warden disagreed.
His warden insisted that would be impossible. They kept him in isolation. They did not allow him to have pens or paper.
He was strip searched. All his incoming and outgoing mail was inspected. There is absolutely, positively no way Paul Freshour was writing those letters and smuggling them out from prison. No way.
After Yoakum and Yant wrote articles about Paul Freshour, they also received letters, and inexplicably, so did Paul Freshour, behind bars.
The letter writer bragged about setting him up. He said, when we set him up good.
And who did Paul think had set him up?
Karen Sue,
His ex-wife.
his ex-wife.
Paul Freshour's lawyer raised that very possibility during his closing argument. Who hated Paul enough to try to get him into trouble? If you read the divorce decree, who stands to profit financially if Paul is convicted, goes to prison? Pam Stanton says that during that divorce battle, Karen Sue lost her home, custody of their daughters, and was living in a trailer on Mary Gillespie's property.
If Uncle Paul's out of the picture, she got it all.
And Karen Sue was one of the first to link Paul to the anonymous letters. Remember, she told investigators that she found some at their home, including that one in the commode.
Karen tried to piece it back together when Paul was not at home and said she could make the name of Gillespie out on the letter.
Could she show them these letters?
No, she didn't keep the letters.
Does that make sense?
Not to me. Why wouldn't she run off right away to the sheriff's office and say, look, this is from my husband, he's the letter writer. She didn't do any of that until after the booby trap was found.
Do you believe that Paul Freshour did set up the booby trap and tried to kill Mary Gillespie?
Nope, I don't. I think somebody stole his gun to set him up, and it worked.
In the early 1990s, when Martin Yant began investigating Freshour's case, he discovered evidence in police reports of an alternate suspect.
There was another bus driver who saw what I think is very significant. It was something that never came up at trial, and it points in a whole different direction.
Investigators never followed up, but Yant did. The female bus driver told him that 20 minutes before Mary found that booby trap, she had driven by the same spot.
She said she saw a man standing beside an El Camino,
That looked like this one.
but the man turned away from her and acted like he was going to the bathroom, so she didn't get a good look at him.
The description didn't seem to match Paul Freshour.
She said he was a large man with sandy hair, and Paul was not large, and he had very dark hair.
And wasn't Karen Sue at that point dating a man who was large with sandy hair?
Yes,
And what about the El Camino?
there's no evidence that any inquiries were made about who might have an El Camino.
Didn't, in fact, Karen Sue's brother have an El Camino?
That's what I've been told.
But Marie Mayhew believes trying to connect the booby trap to Karen Sue is tenuous at best.
There's someone who looked like the man she was dating driving a car that looked like it could have been her brother's. None of that points back to Karen Sue. I don't believe that she framed her husband for this or was responsible for it.
10 years after Paul Freshour went to prison, the intrigue surrounding the case caught the attention of the television series Unsolved Mysteries. But in December 1993, before filming even began, the show received a postcard with an ominous threat.
Forget Circleville, Ohio. If you come to Ohio, you El Sickos will pay. The Circleville writer.
It didn't deter the show from going to Circleville. Even Paul Freshour, who had just been released on parole, agreed to talk.
I'd really like to see someone really look at this case on the letters. Reopen the letter part of it and get in and find out who wrote the letters.
Pam Stanton says Karen Sue was not happy that Unsolved Mysteries was in town, or that Pam agreed to be interviewed.
I got a phone call and her telling me it would be in my best interest not to go.
Karen Sue didn't participate in the program, but according to Pam, she kept track of everyone who did.
She sat in a car on the other side of the intersection and took pictures of everybody going in and out for the interviews.
If true, Marie Mayhew says that doesn't prove anything. What's more, Karen Sue has never been considered a suspect by police.
I think she's a very convenient villain.
We reached out to her, but she did not respond to our request for an interview.
There are so many twists and turns in this case. All of a sudden, something will surface, makes you rethink what you were thinking.
Martin Yant is right, and there's another twist to come.
After Paul Freshour went to prison, how do you think the letters continued?
It took nearly 20 years, but in 1994, the Circleville letters abruptly stopped when Paul Freshour was released from prison. Did people, when he got out, still think he was the letter writer?
Yeah.
He was very hurt, and he was hurt with what it did to his family.
A very uncivil war had been raging for years between Paul Freshour and his ex-wife, Karen Sue. Even their two daughters were divided over their dad, and caught in the middle was their son, Mark.
He was so loyal to his mom, but he loved his dad too. But with Sue, you were going to be her son or his son.
Pam Stanton says Mark chose his mom and never once visited his father in prison.
He wouldn't tell me why, he just said he couldn't.
It was Paul Freshour's gun discovered in the booby trap that helped land him behind bars.
He did tell some people that the gun had been stolen.
According to Martin Yant, Freshour strongly suspected that the thief was his own son.
And I did interview one man that said he specifically told him that he thought it was Mark, the son.
And this was before there was any talk of a booby trap.
Before the booby trap.
Freshour kept his suspicions about his son to himself, says Yant.
Family loyalty meant more to him, even though his son had totally rejected him.
Why didn't he say more? Why didn't he point the finger at his son?
Paul get his son in trouble? No, Uncle Paul never done that.
But he knew he would.
No.
He could go to prison.
I don't care. Uncle Paul would have died before he'd have seen Mark go to jail. All this destroyed Mark. The divorce, the letters, it all destroyed him in a way that could never be fixed.
Just before sunrise on September 11, 2002, in Portsmouth, Ohio, a man's body was found floating in the Scioto River. It was 39-year-old Mark Freshour. he had shot himself. His mother, Karen Sue, later told police her son had suffered for years from depression.
And I firmly believe when Mark took his life, he could not deal with the guilt any longer.
If Paul Freshour actually had nothing to do with the booby trap, is it also possible he had nothing to do with the letters?
As he told me, I didn't write the letters. I didn't do this.
Even after he got out of prison, he approached the FBI and asked them to investigate the case.
The FBI never responded, says Jant, but today, nearly 3 decades later, one of its former star profilers agreed to examine the Circleville letters for 48 hours. Mary Ellen O'Toole has explored some of the darkest criminal minds, from the Green River Killer to the Unabomber.
Whoever the writer is, they're flying under the radar screen, coming across as very normal, and people would not suspect them.
Who was the Circleville writer? Or were there multiple writers? O'Toole believes one solitary author churned out every letter.
When you have one person, and one person only, who has that secret, that person can take the secret to the grave.
Number one, do you think it's male or female? Can you tell?
Right. And I knew that would be one of your first questions. When it comes to a letter writer, gender is very difficult to discern.
That's because the writer was clever, consistently deceptive and manipulative, says O'Toole.
You see the manipulation continue throughout these letters.
She went all the way back to the writer's first letters in 1977, hunting for hints about gender, and found some.
The letter writer kept referring to, I'm the boyfriend of a woman. They wanted to make you believe, I'm not a woman, I'm a man. And seeing how they were trying to hide who they were makes me think there could be a good possibility it's a female.
Altogether, O'Toole inspected 98 letters, finding the word choices and the grammar revealing. How educated is this writer? Can you tell?
I would say this is not a highly educated person. Because of the quality of the sentences and how they were put together.
Significant, says O'Toole, considering that Paul Freshour had a job as a manager at Anheuser-Busch and a master's degree. She says there were other identifying clues from the anonymous writer.
And as you read these letters, you can see the letter writer is really having a good time.
What does that say about that person?
The letter writer is pretty callous, and this person would have to know, I'm hurting people, and that's okay with me.
A sign the writer might have been suffering from a personality disorder, says O'Toole, meaning that he or she knew the difference between right and wrong, but simply chose wrong.
So that would suggest to me that in their regular everyday life, they sought ways to be a bully, to be intimidating.
If that's the case, Pam Stanton says that does not sound like her Uncle Paul. Did he have a dark side to him or anything?
Never. Uncle Paul was never bitter, never angry.
Do you think the letter writer was Paul Freshour?
Right now, I have my doubts. Sitting here today, I'd say I can't rule him out, but I'm looking at other reasons that tell me it might in fact be somebody different.
And O'Toole does not believe the secretive writer would risk exposure by setting a booby trap in a public place.
That suggests to me that may have been done by somebody else who took advantage of this situation.
The mystery seemed to only deepen, but one expert is convinced she does know the identity of the Circleville writer.
100% sure.
Could there have been copycat letter writers? See the letters for yourself on Facebook at 48 Hours.
When the 1980 Robert Redford prison drama Brubaker needed extras in the Columbus area, Paul Freshour channeled his experience as a former prison guard to play one on the big screen. Little did he know he'd eventually serve a decade for attempted murder. And although never charged with terrorizing Circleville with the letters, he had to live with people believing he was the writer. But not sisters Janet Cassidy and June Whitehead.
What is one thing that you really want to see corrected?
I don't think Paul's guilty. I think he served those 10 years in prison. I don't think he was guilty of the attempted murder. And I don't really think he was the letter writer.
And with former FBI profiler Mary Ellen O'Toole believing the writer could be someone other than Paul Freshour, it calls into question the testimony of those two handwriting experts at his trial, linking him to the letters. So 48 Hours turned to forensic document expert Beverly East, looking for her independent analysis.
I don't want to hear the story because the documents tell me the story.
That story, says East, begins by identifying distinct writing patterns in Paul Freshour's known writing. In this case, letters he wrote to a friend.
The G in Grimmer is a very unusual G. It looks like a 6, a number 6.
And that's unusual?
That's very unusual.
She then studied a selection of 49 of the anonymous letters, spanning from when they first started in 1977 through the 1990s, and found that unusual G shaped like a number 6 in several of the Circleville letters, including one sent while Paul was in prison.
So Gillespie, Gettin, Gillespie, and Gordon, you've got that number 6.
E says numbers can tell a story of their own.
Numbers don't lie. Numbers don't lie.
Pointing to this zip code written by Paul, there's this ambiguous number 3 that might also be a 2.
It's like he's not sure if it's 42112 or 43113 in the anonymous letters on the zip code. I found the same mistake.
While East admits that there are writing patterns in the anonymous letters that don't look like Paul's, after showing us almost 100 examples of his distinct works that she was able to identify, she's convinced one person was responsible.
I would go into court and swear on the Bible on the evidence that I found.
And when you say you'd swear on the Bible, what would you say?
I would say one person wrote all of these, and the one person is this person.
Paul Freshour.
Paul Freshour.
And if you saw that a document examiner today thought, in fact, he did write those letters, would that change your mind?
No.
And there is historical basis for skepticism.
You know that some document examiners have been wrong in the past.
I cannot speak for others. There are always going to be times where people are inaccurate, and it's not because the science is not accurate, it's because that particular examiner has not done due diligence to arrive at the opinion that they should do. You can't be wrong, because somebody's life and livelihood is at the end of your opinion. So I am not wrong.
While studying the thousands of pages in the case file, Marie Mayhew made a discovery that supports East's findings. Investigators had found Paul Freshour's fingerprints on about a dozen letters, postmarked while he was incarcerated.
Those fingerprints are there, and they're his.
Do you think that Paul Freshour is the Circleville letter writer?
Yes, I honestly do.
Former FBI profiler Mary Ellen O'Toole says she cannot explain those letters, but she also cannot ignore that during Freshour's decade in prison, the phantom writer mailed hundreds of letters.
If a crime continues on and you have someone in custody for a long period of time, you have to say somebody else is sending these letters. They're not happening by magic. Somebody else is writing the letters.
If in fact Paul Freshour was the letter writer, is it possible that he mass-produced letters, went to prison, and then had somebody else send them while he was in?
Anything is possible. That would have to be investigated and ruled out.
Paul Freshour died June 28, 2012, at age 70, still fighting to prove his innocence. Instead, what's left behind is an unfinished portrait. Was Paul Freshour the successful, loving family man he appeared to be? Or a cruel, even dangerous criminal mastermind? Whatever your conclusion, Paul Freshour predicted, when interviewed by writer Robin Yoakum 35 years ago, that his notoriety as the Circleville letter writer would long outlive him.
When I'm dead and in my grave, people are going to believe I'm sending those letters. Unfortunately, Paul died, and we'll never know. We'll never know.
A modern-day Indiana Jones hid a treasure chest and left clues.
If you've been brave, I give you title to the gold.
But was the cost of the quest too high?
This treasure hunt did claim at least 5 lives.
He could have stopped this madness. It wasn't worth it.
48 Hours, next on CBS and streaming on Paramount+.
This has been a Hampton County story. This has been a Hampton County scandal.
A jury found the disgraced South Carolina attorney guilty of murdering his wife and his youngest son.
This has been the downfall of a family dynasty.
Today is not the end. It's the next step in a long road to justice for every person who has been victimized by Alex Murdaugh.
Justice for Stephen Smith, Alex.
Stephen Smith was another body in this orbit of the Murdaugh family.
Stephen was a gay young man in the low country of South Carolina. That is courageous in and of itself.
I can't imagine the terror he was in that night.
In the early morning hours of July 8, 2015, 19-year-old Stephen Smith was found dead in the middle of a rural road.
There was an autopsy that basically said it's a hit and run.
There was no vehicle debris, no broken headlight, paint scrapes or anything.
You never believed it?
No, not at all. He never would have been walking in that road, not voluntarily.
Do you believe Stephen was murdered?
I do.
An investigation of some sort took place that led nowhere. And then it went cold.
I wanted a second opinion.
Sandy Smith is unique in this whole story. She doesn't know who killed her son. She doesn't know why.
People in town really believed that it was connected to the Murdaughs in some way. The name Buster Murdaugh kept coming up.
I never had anything to do with his murder, and I never had anything to do with him on a physical level of any regard.
The rumors also suggest a cover-up.
We are aware of no evidence today that would suggest that any Murdaugh played any role in Stephen Smith's death or played any role in trying to cover up the investigation into his death.
All I want is peace and knowing what happened to my son. He's my world, and I'm gonna fight to the end.
This is a woman that has fought this battle alone since 2015, screaming as loud as she could with not a lot of people listening.
CBS News confirming that the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division is now investigating Stephen Smith's death as a homicide.
The Murdaugh case brought Stephen's cold case to life.
Somehow, some way in the Murdaugh murder investigation, a new thread was opened up into Stephen Smith.
Our primary function right now is to have that body exhumed, have a true independent set of eyes look at it and tell us once and for all what really happened to Stephen Smith.
The gash was from part of this eyebrow across here. The injuries can tell us so much about what happened.
And in this case, they did.
They did.
Set the scene for me on July 8th, 2015, here.
Stephen was somewhat right here in the road.
How confident are you that you know what happened to Stephen Smith that night?
I'm as close to a degree of scientific certainty as I've ever felt.
Like his mother, Sandy, Stephen Smith was born a fighter.
He was a preemie. He weighed 2 pounds, 12 ounces.
A twin?
Yeah, twin.
Born at 27 weeks with his sister, Stephanie, Sandy says Stephen couldn't breathe on his own. After several months, she was told he might not make it, and she was finally allowed to hold her baby for the first time.
How was that moment?
Oh my gosh, it was amazing. It was supposed to be my goodbye. But he started breathing on his own.
Because he felt you?
Yeah, that's why he was my heart.
Sandy never dreamed she'd one day be fighting for answers in her son's death.
How would you describe the journey that you've been on for justice?
It's been a hard journey, just living day by day and fighting day by day.
On July 8th, 2015, Stephen was found dead on a country road in Hampton County, the same county where 3 generations of Murdaugh men had held the top prosecutor job for nearly a century. The Murdaughs still loomed large over small-town life.
Alec Murdaugh coached Stephen's baseball team at one point?
When they were little. I think Stephen was like 7 or 8.
Stephen and Stephanie were also classmates of Murdaugh's older son, Buster, before Stephen went to nursing school with dreams of one day becoming a doctor.
He wanted to be a doctor, but it was more expensive, so he just started with nursing school. He loved dealing with medicine, and he just loved it.
You must have been so proud.
Oh, I was.
But instead, Sandy says those dreams were buried with her son.
You decided to bury him in his scrubs?
Scrubs, Dr. Stephen Smith. He had everything he needed in his pockets. He had a stethoscope and everything he needed.
Stephen had just completed a semester of school and was taking summer classes, shuttling back and forth between his parents who lived apart. He had visited Sandy a week before he was killed.
A storm started brewing. I told him that he needed to hurry up and get back to his dad's house. So when he made it, he texts me and says, "I made it safe, Mom. Mama, I love you."
Sandy says those were Stephen's last words to her. Days later, she would hear the news that would alter the course of her life.
July 8th, I was on my way to work, and I was listening to a local radio station, and I heard that they had found a body.
Sandy called her daughter Stephanie right away.
She said, "Mama, did Stephen stay with you last night? Because he didn't come home last night." Then my stomach dropped and I knew it was him.
Sandy says Stephen's father, Joel, went to the sheriff's office for confirmation that it was Stephen. That's when she says they received a call.
Well, I was on the phone with Joel the whole time while we were waiting for the sheriff to come out. And that's when Joel asked me to hold on because Randy Murdaugh was calling.
Randy Murdaugh is Alec Murdaugh's older brother and had been representing Joel Smith in a workers' comp case. But now he was calling about Stephen.
When Joel got back on the phone, he said Randy had asked if that was our Stephen and that he wanted to help pro bono.
Did you think it was strange that Randy offered to help pro bono?
Well, I did, but Joel thought it was a nice gesture.
Later that morning, Sandy says she was surprised again as she drove past the scene where Stephen's body had reportedly been found.
There was Alex and Randy standing on the opposite side of the road.
Murdaugh.
A few minutes later, Sandy says Randy Murdaugh called again.
And asked if that was me that passed by. He said, I wish you'd have stopped so I could have met you.
Randy Murdahl declined our request for an interview, but through his attorney, he provided a written statement of 48 hours in which he said, quote, I was not aware of Stephen's death until Joel told me. They wanted my involvement, and I contacted law enforcement on their behalf. Murdahl said he went to the scene with a private investigator after meeting with Joel and Stephanie, adding, quote, claims that I visited the scene of Stephen's death with my brother Alec are false. Joel Smith passed away 3 months after Stephen. But Stephanie and Sandy told us they never asked the Murdahls for help. And there were other things about Stephen's case that didn't sit well with Sandy from the moment the sheriff confirmed the body was Stephen's. At first, he told them Stephen had been shot.
What were you thinking?
Who would shoot him? It made no sense. I lost it then. I left my job and just drove back to Hampton, and we just mourned together. We just couldn't understand why or who. It was just the biggest shock of our life.
Within hours, Stephen's cause of death was suddenly changed to a hit and run.
Toward the evening time, we were contacted by the sheriff's office. After his autopsy, there was not any type of bullet or bullet fragment found in his head. Because his body was in the roadway, it was being ruled a hit and run.
Retired South Carolina Highway Patrol Lieutenant Thomas Moore was the on-scene supervisor.
I was told that the medical examiner made that ruling, and I reached out to her. It became a little bit heated. Give me an answer medically that would lead you to believe he was hit by a car. There was no medical reason.
Did you see any signs of a hit and run?
No, ma'am, none. Any type of debris, any kind of glass, car parts, piece of plastic, anything that looks like it may be related to a vehicle.
Also unusual for a hit and run, Stephen's clothing was intact and his shoes, which were loosely tied, were still on.
Generally, clothes are torn or unraveled, and shoes have come off.
And Stephen's car keys and cell phone were in his front pocket unharmed. And Moore says Stephen's body appeared staged.
His body was laying like it had been placed in a certain position, not what you would typically see, and it looked like somebody had hit him in the head with some kind of object.
Meanwhile, Stephen's wallet was still in his car, which investigators found 3 miles away, with the doors locked and the gas cap hanging open.
In all the years I've worked, a car sitting on the side of the road with a gas cap off is not normal. I thought it was staged like his body was staged in the roadway.
Sandy says she wondered if Stephen might have been the victim of a hate crime.
Did you think that it was possibly because of his sexuality?
I did think that. I know he was teased a lot at school, but he still held his head high.
But Sandy says in the days leading up to his death, Stephen was worried about his safety. He'd called his sister Stephanie for help the day before he was killed.
Stephanie said the battery cable was loosened on his car, so she had met him and then she tightened the battery cable. And she asked him to get out the car and help her, and he said, no, I'm not getting out.
Like he was scared.
Right.
But he never said why. Despite what Lieutenant Moore felt were suspicious circumstances, he says once Stephen's death was ruled a hit and run, it became the Highway Patrol's job to solve the case, instead of the Hampton County Sheriff's Office or SLED, the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division.
I felt like the case, for lack of a better word, was being pawned off on us. No matter what we said, we were going to be the ones investigating that case. As we were getting started, certain names started coming up.
Which names?
Murdahl.
Soon after Stephen Smith was killed, Hampton County Guardian managing editor Michael DeWitt says he began hearing persistent rumors all over town.
What are the rumors?
That at least one Murdaugh child was in a vehicle with other boys, and allegedly somebody in the vehicle struck the young man with the baseball bat and killed him.
Sandy says those same rumors hit her doorstep as soon as Stephen's body was taken for an autopsy.
It made no sense to me.
At any point, did you think that someone in the Murdaugh family was involved?
Well, the longer it went on, the more I was asking myself questions. But I just couldn't find the connection. Powerful family, and then you got Stephen, who was just Stephen.
Sandy couldn't help but think back to her last conversation with Stephen a week before he was killed.
Somebody was messaging him a lot. He told me that he was going deep sea fishing, and he said Key West. And I said, well, who are you going with? He said, well, I can't tell you.
Did that make you pause?
Yeah, he said you'd be surprised. It's kind of like a prominent person. And then all I could say was, well, I hope you have fun.
Sandy says Stephen had become more secretive the last couple weeks, but it never crossed her mind he might be talking about a Murdaugh.
The original rumor was that Stephen was planning to go away with Buster Murdaugh and his family, that they were together romantically.
Liz Farrell is the writer and co-host of the Murdaugh Murders podcast.
There's no evidence of that we know of.
And 48 Hours found no evidence to support the rumors. Retired Highway Patrol Lieutenant Thomas Moore says the mere mention of the Murdaughs made it difficult to get help from local agencies.
We tried to hand that case file over to the sheriff's office, and they physically would not take it from our hand.
The Murdaugh name was still very powerful, very well connected in law enforcement, and the rumors suggested, well, the local cops aren't going to dig into it.
Instead, the case was handled solely by the Highway Patrol's multidisciplinary accident investigation team called MATE, which specializes in complex vehicle crashes.
The MATE team was from out of town, and we wanted outside eyes involved in this.
The Murdaugh name appears dozens of times in MATE's 2015 case file, which we obtained through a Freedom of Information request. In his audio notes, Corporal Michael Duncan makes it clear he doesn't think Stephen's death is a hit and run.
There is no body trauma other than to the head area. It does not appear to be, in my opinion, struck by a vehicle.
Another investigator, Todd Proctor, goes further.
Typically, you don't see the Highway Patrol working a murder, and that's what this is.
He hints at a conflict of interest for the local sheriff's department.
There's a reason why Hampton County Sheriff's Department is not handling this, and I'll leave it at that.
In this interview with Proctor, local teen Taylor Dobson shares a detailed version of that story about several young men in a truck.
I heard that these 2, maybe 3 young men were in a vehicle. They were riding down 601, saw the car on the side of the road. I guess saw the boy walking. They turned back around, then stuck something out the window.
He offers a name reluctantly.
He goes by Buster Murdaugh.
Dobson says he grew up with Buster.
Kinda out of character to who I knew. It was just strictly hearsay from all I know.
Proctor reassures him the Murdaughs are already aware authorities want to speak with Buster.
They know that he's on our radar. Matter of fact, I talked to one of their guys yesterday and told him, I'm gonna talk to Buster here soon, and they said, okay, that's fine.
But according to the case file, a call to Buster Murdaugh in October 2015 was never returned. And in December, following a front-page story in the Hampton County Guardian, MATE received a tip called in at the direction of Randy Murdaugh, Buster's uncle. A man named Daryl Williams called a Hampton police officer to report the tip, which involved 2 teens, Sean Connolly and Patrick Wilson. In a recorded phone call, the officer relays to Corporal Duncan what Williams told him.
Daryl called me and he said, Patrick, come over here to the house. He said that Sean Connolly was drunk and hit something. He went back the next day to see what it was he had hit, and he seen a lot of police out there. Patrick was crying, telling him, and after he got finished telling the story, he walked outside his house and threw up.
Did he go into any detail about how it happened?
Supposedly, he had fixed his mirror, one of the mirrors up on the truck.
The side mirror story matched Stephen's original death certificate. For reasons that are unclear, there is no record of Duncan or Proctor ever speaking to Connolly or Wilson. Wilson had no comment to 48 Hours. Messages to the Hampton County Sheriff's Office, Williams, and Connolly have not been answered. Sandy Smith says she asked Sean Connolly point blank if he killed Stephen.
And he said?
He said, no, ma'am, I did not. I give you my word, I promise you, I never killed your son.
Do you believe him?
Yeah.
If he lied to you, if that turns out to be the case,
it won't be the first time I'm lied to, but If you did it, you need to pay.
In September 2016, fed up with what she calls the lack of an investigation, Sandy began a letter-writing campaign that included the FBI.
What did your letter say?
I was just letting them know that my son was murdered and there's no progress being done. And I think it had something to do with the Murdaugh family. And please help. Just please help me.
Sandy also told the FBI she believed someone was deliberately trying to derail the investigation.
Did you ever get a response from the FBI?
I did, and I had 2 agents come to my house.
She asked them to unlock Stephen's phone, and they did.
Do you know if anyone actually was able to read Stephen's text messages or see where he might have been based on cell phone evidence?
What I heard from the FBI agent, there was a lot of interesting information in the phone that needed to be looked at.
But she says that didn't prompt local or state authorities to pursue the case further.
There's something in that phone that nobody wants out there.
By late 2016, the investigation into Stephen Smith's death went cold.
What do you think it took for Stephen's case to finally get the attention it deserves that you wanted?
Somebody else had to die.
The murders of Paul and Maggie Murdaugh in June of 2021 caused a seismic shift in small-town Hampton and gave Sandy Smith a lifeline she desperately needed.
It took this to get Stephen's name back out there so somebody would start paying attention.
In a strange twist of fate, while investigating the murders of Paul and Maggie Murdaugh, SLED announced it had stumbled on a new lead in Stephen's death and would be taking over the case. They did not say what that evidence was.
It seems like all roads lead to the Murdaugh family around here.
Yes.
Is that coincidence, or is there a reason for that?
Around here, it's natural.
It would be another 2 years while authorities focused on getting a conviction against Alec Murdaugh, but Sandy now has a high-octane legal team in her corner.
After 8 years of waiting for your turn, Sandy Smith finally just had enough.
Ronnie and I are like arsonists. We started the fire.
Ronnie Richter and Eric Bland are representing Sandy pro bono.
Our sole goal was to rekindle the interest in Stephen's death.
And they turned up the heat on SLED. In March of 2023, SLED publicly acknowledged it was treating Stephen's case as a homicide. The same week, Buster Murdaugh released a statement through his father's attorney saying, quote, "These baseless rumors of my involvement with Stephen and his death are false. I unequivocally deny any involvement in his death, and my heart goes out to the Smith family."
Those words are now in cement. I take him at his word that he had nothing at all to do with Stephen's death.
Rather than old rumors, Bland and Richter say they're focusing on a new investigation made possible by $130,000 in GoFundMe donations from Sandy supporters.
The resources were made available for us to do some private investigative work that's going to start with hiring a pathology team.
They were also able to have Stephen's body exhumed, something Sandy had wanted for years.
Our primary function right now is to have a true independent set of eyes look at it and tell us once and for all what really happened to Stephen Smith.
In April of 2023, Dr. Michelle Dupree, a former investigator and forensic pathologist who's performed more than 3,000 autopsies, oversaw the examination of Stephen's body.
The injuries can tell us so much about what happened.
And in this case, they did.
They did.
Dupree says the autopsy confirmed Stephen died from a single blow to his forehead, severely fracturing his skull.
That's a big gash.
That's 7.5 inches almost. There would be another gash in this posterior area from hitting the pavement so hard.
It literally split his skull.
And split his skull.
They were also able to put to rest some rumors, including the one that Stephen had been beaten with a baseball bat.
It wasn't a baseball bat.
No. Those type of injuries would cause something that we call pattern injuries, and we don't see that here. This is a linear fracture, as well as this is here.
Just as important as what they found, Dupree says, is what they didn't find.
We didn't find fractures of any part of the body except for the head. There was a little road rash, which you would expect.
Any signs of a struggle?
No.
Any signs of a beating?
No.
Any injuries below his head other than the road rash?
None whatsoever.
She says that eliminates the possibility Stephen was hit by a car head-on. Dupree says the findings also refute early theories that Stephen's body might have been staged.
Were you able to determine whether Stephen was struck and fell, or he might have been struck and then placed there?
We don't believe that he was placed there. We believe that whatever happened right there.
Dr. Kenny Kinsey agrees.
You think he was killed right here?
Right there.
A crime scene expert and star prosecution witness in the Murdaugh murder trial, Kinsey worked with Dupree to analyze Stephen's case. He says the evidence at the scene is clear.
That's a massive amount of blood, and if he had that kind of injury somewhere else, it wouldn't be that uniform.
Due to their sensitive nature, we created versions of the crime scene photos in which the blood and body are shown as graphics.
The quantity of blood, the direction of the flow in the road, and then the direction of all the blood on his person led me to the only conclusion.
Kinsey's convinced an object attached to a vehicle traveling at high speed caused the single fatal blow to Stephen's head.
But whatever hit him was fast and it was large.
So a hit and run, but an atypical hit and run.
Yeah, very atypical.
A hit and run with no vehicle debris at the scene. It's a conclusion no one was expecting.
How confident are you that you know what happened to Stephen Smith that night?
I'm as close to a degree of scientific certainty as I've ever felt.
What no one can say with certainty is whether Stephen's death was accidental or not. But still, Richter points out, he was left there to die.
Someone left him in that condition in the roadway, and that is a very serious felony.
Stephen's body was found about 3 miles from his car. Kinsey tried to retrace his steps.
I wanted to walk every possible path that Mr. Smith may have taken.
Stephen's family has always insisted if Stephen had car trouble, he would have felt safer walking through the woods.
So where was Stephen's car?
Stephen's car was located, if you look at this gate here, it was not grown up then. You could access that gate, but in this area, really close to the woods.
But to cut through the woods, Stephen would have had to scale a fence that was 8 feet tall.
And from what I understand from interviewing neighbors, it's been there for well over a decade.
Kinsey theorizes Stephen was walking along the road, trying to flag someone down for help.
He is walking this direction in the lane facing traffic. Whatever was attached to the vehicle or hanging off of the vehicle, whenever it struck Stephen, he went down in this area, somewhat on this line here. The vehicle that struck Stephen was coming toward him just like that vehicle in the photograph.
Like this?
Yes, going that direction.
Kinsey says the evidence suggests the driver saw something in the road and changed lanes.
And sometime before it struck Stephen, I believe it changed into the oncoming lane.
That's when he says an object from the passenger side struck Stephen.
What kind of object could it be?
It could be anything. It could be a ladder hanging off the back of a work truck. It could be a extended side mirror, the metal type that you see on some farm vehicles or some larger vehicles.
That scenario matches up with the tip from 2015 involving Patrick Wilson and Sean Connolly, which Kinsey calls plausible.
That certainly would be possible. That would be one of the places I would start.
SLED has kept its investigation close to the vest, but Bland and Richter say a grand jury was impaneled and is issuing subpoenas.
They're honing in on specific individuals, and I think there's about 5 or less that SLED believes has information regarding Stephen's death.
We don't know who those individuals are. In an interview on Fox Nation in August of 2023, Buster Murdaugh again denied the rumors of his involvement.
I never had anything to do with his murder, and I never had anything to do with him on a physical level of any regard.
He also provided an alibi.
The night Stephen was killed, I was at our Edisto Beach house.
With your family?
With my mom and my brother.
Sandy's team says it's turned over all of its findings to SLED, but Kinsey says it's still going to take someone coming forward.
Somebody knows.
Oh, they know. Yes, ma'am.
As a grand jury zeroes in on potential suspects in Stephen Smith's death, the legal wrangling hasn't slowed down for Alec Murdaugh.
You've got local charges, you've got state charges. The legal civil cases are going to go on for years.
On November 17, 2023,
I am guilty, and yes, sir.
Murdaugh agreed to a plea deal encompassing all of the state financial charges he faced for defrauding and stealing millions from clients and law partners. He had previously pleaded guilty to 22 federal conspiracy, wire fraud, and money laundering charges.
Alex preyed on the vulnerable, whom he also thought would never figure out his schemes.
Correct. It's people that are at the worst times of their lives, where you need a lawyer to be the best for you, not the worst for you.
Perhaps none more so than Elena and Hannah Plyler, who are now represented by Blandon Richter.
Who were the Plylers?
They were two young girls from Colombia.
They were just 12 and 8 when they survived a deadly crash due to a faulty tire that killed their mother and 14-year-old brother in 2005 and became the youngest of the financial victims to whom Murdaugh admitted he lied and stole from when questioned at his murder trial.
What loss did they suffer? Who died?
Their mother did.
He only mentioned your mom.
Yeah, that bothered me. Because you don't remember that a 14-year-old was killed in that wreck. Alec got a very good paycheck off of my brother's death.
Both women are now mothers, and Elena is a detective with the Lexington County Sheriff's Office.
Since all of this has come out, there's a lot of pain that's still there.
Elena was old enough to remember the details of the last road trip she and her sister would ever take with their mom and brother.
My brother and I had gotten into an argument. I wanted to start sitting in the front seat. So we fought about it, and finally Mom was like, you know what? Justin's gonna ride on the way to Columbia, and on the way back home, Elena gets to ride up front. And I was so happy.
Elena and Hannah, who were still sitting in the back seat, survived the crash.
So you must think about that all the time.
I do. I actually had a lot of guilt for several years.
That guilt is something she says she's learned to let go as she recounts her and her little sister's harrowing survival.
We hadn't been on the road too long. Hannah was sleeping, and I was listening to Usher. And I remember Mom saying, "Lena, you awake?" And so I remember pulling my headphones down and said, "Yeah, Mom." Within seconds, I heard this loud pop. And then I immediately heard my mom scream. I looked out the window, and my Usher CD was spinning on a tree limb.
Their mother, Angela, and brother, Justin, died instantly. Elena realized she was trapped and couldn't move and had to send Hannah for help.
I said, I need you to get out of the car, and I need you to go to the top of the hill to the interstate.
And you're only 12.
I'm 12, right. So many things could have went worse.
8-year-old Hannah climbed up to the interstate.
There was an 18-wheeler, and I was able to flag him down. And I think by that point, an ambulance came in, and they had taken me to the hospital.
Elena waited alone until a fire rescue team arrived and cut her out of the wreckage. She watched as they removed her mother and brother.
And so I watched them put them in a black body bag.
She was then airlifted to a hospital and would need numerous surgeries.
What was the moment like when you were able to see each other again after that?
I remember it. I remember hugging her and thanking her for not dying, for not leaving me. And then from there, I was just in the hospital bed with you. You couldn't keep us apart.
The sisters say they were passed around to live with family members.
We didn't have a bedroom.
Mm-hmm. You just had each other.
Just each other. Yeah. We lived out a little plastic bin.
When a family friend referred the Plylers to Alec Murdaugh, he promised to change all of that.
Do you remember the first time you met Alec Murdaugh?
Yeah. I remember when he walked in, he seemed really arrogant, like a bulldog. Just tall, almost intimidating in a sense. He told us, they took your family from you and we're gonna make this right, they're gonna pay.
To two young girls who had lost everything, Murdaugh seemed larger than life.
I always felt at peace when I got to talk to Alec. People listened to him. You could tell there was a lot of control there.
How did he earn your trust?
Really, with his words. He was a smooth talker, and he made you feel special.
But once the case settled, the special treatment stopped.
He pretty much checked out. He had explained that the case had settled. We won big money.
Elenia's case settled for $4.7 million. You know, Hannah's for right at $3 million. That money was then entrusted to Russell Lafitte.
Lafitte was the CEO of Palmetto State Bank in Hampton and a close friend of Murdaugh, who'd handpicked Lafitte to manage the funds as conservator until the girls turned 18.
So these two very wealthy, prominent men basically helped themselves to these kids' piggy bank.
Any money they needed had to be approved by Lafitte and a judge.
Even if it was $1, we had to have a receipt for it.
When you and Eric took on their case, what did you discover?
Russell was making loans to Alex. Alex would be overdrawn $50,000, $100,000, $300,000 in his personal account, and he needed money to cover those shorts.
Richter says that at Murdaugh's direction, Lafitte transferred nearly $1.5 million from the Plylers' money to Alec Murdaugh and himself.
When it came time for these young ladies to turn 18, the money was supposed to be there, so Alex had to go out and steal new money from different clients and put that money back.
Murdaugh was never charged for Hannah and Elena's case, but Lafitte was convicted on federal charges for his role.
But still, there's that toll of how do you trust going forward? People were put in a position of trust on their behalf when they were just children. And then to learn as an adult that the entire time they saw you as nothing more than a checkbook.
While the Plylers can begin to heal, Sandy Smith still waits for her day of reckoning.
All this sweeping drama, there's answers and there's closure for everybody else, but not for Sandy Smith. It's time to put the spotlight on Stephen Smith.
Months after his blockbuster trial,
Alec Murdaugh!
Verdict, guilty.
Convicted double murderer Alec Murdaugh and the crime of the century are still Hampton's biggest attractions.
Almost every day somebody's coming by taking a picture of the law firm or riding out to Moselle taking pictures. They just can't get enough.
The Murdaugh craze was on full display at an auction for the family's personal items from their Moselle property. The infamous leather couch set where Alec testified he took a cat nap while his wife and son were murdered sold for $30,000. And Maggie's dog, Bubba, who helped prosecutors prove Alec was actually at the crime scene, has become a local folk hero.
If that rambunctious yellow lab hadn't have been doing what labs like to do, chase birds, we might not have solved this case and we might not have gotten a conviction.
Alec's voice calling Bubba was caught in the background of phone video Paul took minutes before he was killed.
Bubba and the other dogs at the kennels, they were witnesses to a very horrific event.
Bubba now lives a quiet life with the Murdaugh's housekeeper. Meanwhile, Alec Murdaugh is serving 2 life terms in a maximum security prison.
Do you think Alec Murdaugh still thinks he can try to play the system?
100%.
Now, Murdaugh's attorneys are hoping their latest motion will be a get-out-of-jail-free card.
We're focused on getting him a new trial.
In September 2023, Dick Harpootlian and Jim Griffin announced their motion for a new trial based on allegations of jury tampering by the Colleton County Clerk of Court, Becky Hill.
What we had filed today, supported by sworn testimony of jurors, is that the Clerk of Court had improper private communications with the jurors
The State versus Richard Alexander Murdaugh defendant.
They argued that Hill violated Murdaugh's right to a fair trial when she allegedly told jurors not to be fooled by his testimony and to watch his body language as Alec was about to take the stand.
I'm Alec Murdaugh.
In a signed affidavit, Hill denies all of the defense allegations, and voluntary statements from a majority of the jury support Hill's account. Richter and Bland say even a new trial can save Alec Murdaugh.
If the murder conviction's overturned, then you have the financial crimes.
According to the plea deal with prosecutors on the state crimes, Murdaugh could be sentenced to nearly 30 years for those charges alone.
So, yes, there's a theoretical universe in which Alex Murdaugh could see the sun again, but it's theoretical only.
It's like rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic.
It's futile.
If you were to write a made-for-TV Southern legal drama, you couldn't have done a better job than this.
DeWitt writes about it in his book, The Fall of the House of Murdaugh, which he ends with Stephen Smith.
It's kind of interesting and tragic that the oldest story remains unsolved. Solving his murder, I think this will be the end of this sweeping saga.
As SLED continues its investigation of the Smith case behind closed doors, what investigators found after the Murdaugh murders remains the subject of intense speculation.
Do you have any idea what the new evidence that may be presented to the grand jury is?
No. I do know that SLED has Stephen's phone. I know that they have Stephen's tablet.
Could Stephen's phone reveal the identity of the prominent person with whom he told Sandy he'd planned to go deep-sea fishing?
That'll be interesting what SLED has found out and what the grand jury is going to determine, whether the person that he was going to go away with, deep-sea fishing, had anything to do with his death or has knowledge of his death.
How has this fight for justice been?
Oh, it has been a long road, but it's worth it.
Sandy is keeping the faith and keeping Stephen's memory alive. She recently established a college scholarship in his name.
We are starting this scholarship fund so other children won't have it as hard as Stephen did.
And she's offering a $30,000 reward for information leading to an arrest.
And now it's your turn that if you know something, that you say something.
What do you miss most about Stephen?
I miss everything about him.
What do you think Stephen would think of your fight where we are today in his case?
He said, "Oh, Mama, you would do that for me?" Yep, I would. Over and over.
Whoever went in this house, they went in there with one motive: to execute the people that were inside.
There were 3 victims shot, each with single shotgun blast. The shooter comes to Carrie first, fires.
He was a wonderful husband. He was a wonderful father, and he was just a good man. My name's Robin Height, and my husband, Kerry Height, was murdered and it's been really, really hard.
The shooter leaves Carrie, proceeds to the parents' bedroom. The second shot was to Philip.
Carrie and Mr. Phillip were very, very close, and they saw each other every day.
Linda was the mother. She's coming out of the bathroom to see what's going on because she doesn't have a clue.
I opened the bathroom door and went in and said, "Phillip." And then I saw the blast as the gun was turned on me.
The left side of her face was extensively damaged, and then the shot continued through her right shoulder.
I remember waking up and I was on the floor and I prayed. I remember very distinctly saying, "God, if we're going to do this, I need your strength because I have none of my own."
Effingham 911. Good shot. You're shot. Yes. Get James, 1018, hurry up. Stay with me, ma'am. Keep talking to me.
God took over. He was showing me what to do and telling me what to do. Whoever shot Linda meant to kill her. So I was very concerned for her safety.
But everybody here feels like Robin had something to do with it. What part does she play in this?
I think she was the catalyst that caused all of this to happen.
What is your view on Robin's role, if any, in this whole awful thing?
I really would rather not comment on that. And I don't really worry about what people say.
Does she or doesn't she know?
I had a secret, and once that secret was exposed, hell broke loose.
Family Affair, tonight's 48 Hours Mystery.
August 25th, 2008, hours before dawn.
Get James, 1018, hurry
Sheriff Jimmy McDuffie was called to a house on Springfield, Egypt Road. He braced himself for what lay ahead.
Somebody had been killed, at least two. I did not know who it was. They just gave us an address on the page. At some point, and I don't remember where that was at, it was like, oh my God, that's gotta be Philip's house.
Philip was Philip Height, a man to be reckoned with in Effingham County, Georgia, and a pal of McDuffie's.
I knew Philip ever since I came to the county back in probably 87, 88.
Height was a successful real estate developer who'd made millions in this sprawling county, which is about an hour north of Savannah. Patriarch of a close-knit family, he'd been married to wife Linda for 42 years.
We met at the county fair in Savannah, and he stole my heart right away. And things weren't always easy, but, you know, there was love.
The couple had 3 sons, Craig, Chris, and Carrie.
Good men, fine men, church-going men. They had values, and they believed in each other.
We all got along well.
Chris Height was the middle son.
We were families. Nobody was perfect, but we grew up very close together. Each of us had our own personalities.
Were the brothers very different?
They're all 3 pretty different, yeah. Chris and Craig are the most alike. They both like to hunt, outdoors, things like that. And Carrie was the baby of the family.
It was Carrie who followed his dad into real estate, becoming his business partner. And he and wife Robin had 3 kids of their own.
Carrie and I met in high school, our senior year, in English class.
You got a big smile when you said that.
Yeah.
We were really good friends in the beginning and realized that I was in love with Carrie. And not long after high school, we got married.
When he asked you to marry him, then this just seemed like this was meant to be?
It was definitely meant to be, yes.
The Haight clan was turning out just as its patriarch had hoped.
Philip wanted the family to be perfect. Good Christian family, good folks. Philip was just, he was a man of the house.
Popular.
Popular, extremely.
Murder just didn't fit with the seemingly perfect family the sheriff knew so well. Too well for him to oversee the case, he decided. So that first day, he turned it over to the GBI, the Georgia Bureau of Investigation.
I arrived at the scene at approximately 8:45 that morning.
In charge was Agent Eugene Howard, who quickly realized that the crime scene was not what it seemed.
The scene was staged to look like it was a burglary.
The killer had cut the phone lines and smashed a pane of glass in a door.
There was nothing of note taken. Jury was still present. Nothing was rummaged through. There was money left out. No impression that anything was taken from the residence.
So you think that's just because the person panicked and fled before they had a chance to take anything? Or?
No, robbery wasn't the motive. Murder was the motive.
Both of the men had similar entry wounds, that is, shotgun wound to the face.
Based on those injuries and the pellets found at the scene, medical examiner Dr. James Downs says the shooter used a 12-gauge shotgun. Up close and personal.
How close, roughly, are we talking about here?
Based on what I see at the scene, looking at the photographs, my estimate was something like 2 feet. You're 2 feet away. My goodness, you don't really need to aim. You just kind of point and shoot.
To get an idea of the damage a 12-gauge shotgun does at such close range, we asked the sheriff's firearms instructor, Ed Myrick, to demonstrate.
What exactly do we have here?
This is the Remington 870. This is their most popular shotgun.
The gun is similar to the one used by the killer, loaded with the same type of 3-inch shells and the same type of buckshot.
If you're going to fire that at someone, it's a deadly force incident.
Jeez. Oh my God. Given the close range, Linda, too, probably would have died instantly had she not turned her head at the moment of impact.
It's amazing that she did survive because basically it looks like she was left for dead.
But almost as if the power of those shotgun blasts wasn't enough, the gunman next drenched the entire house in gasoline. A lot of gasoline.
Gas fumes out by the road was just horrific.
You could even smell it from the road.
You could smell it from the road.
I wrote down in my journal that I knew what hell smelled like.
What hell smelled like?
Gasoline and gunpowder.
Wow.
I remember smelling the gas, yes.
You had gasoline on your clothes?
Yeah, well, I was sitting on the floor, so I knew they were wet.
But the killer never set the gas ablaze, perhaps panicking when he heard Linda's desperate call to 911.
Where are you, ma'am?
4 miles off Highway.
News of the murders spread quickly in this rural southern community, and so did fear.
They must have thought a killer was out on the loose.
They did.
Investigators checked the alibi of a local drug dealer, but quickly ruled him out. They next turned their attention to the Heights real estate dealings.
Every time Philip had an argument with somebody, we had to go and investigate and talk to those folks, see what was going on with it.
They found no motive and no suspect. But then, McDuffie recalled an unsettling conversation he'd had with Carrie Haight only a month earlier.
He knew that his wife was running around on him.
Oh.
But he did not tell me who it was with.
That must have been something of a shock.
It was, because every time you saw them together, it was just like the perfect family.
Hardly. As the whole county soon would learn, not only was Robin having an affair, it was with none other than Craig Haight, her husband's own brother.
I am definitely a woman in the center of a storm.
Only hours into the Height murder investigation, as Linda Height fought for her life, the whispers began. Rumors that this seemingly perfect Southern family was anything but.
It's not something that I'm proud of, but it's a mistake that anyone could make.
Robin Height's mistake was having an affair. That happens. But with your husband's brother? Robin admits she made the first move on her brother-in-law, Craig.
I told him that I had feelings for him that were more than, brother and sister-in-law feelings. And he said that he shared the same feelings. It just took off from there.
Craig Height, self-described black sheep of the family, was divorced, owed child support, was unemployed, and lived off disability checks. And Robin found him irresistible.
What, you were head over heels in love?
I was infatuated, not love.
You still loved your husband?
I did.
Where did you think this was going to go?
I wasn't really sure. I was really confused. And I told Carrie about it 2 weeks into the affair.
Was he prepared for this?
No, he wasn't prepared. And Craig did not want me to tell Carrie.
Why did you?
I just couldn't hide it from him. He knew that something was wrong with me and that I wasn't acting like myself.
But telling her husband about the affair didn't stop Robin from pursuing it. Never mind that brother-in-law thing, never mind her 3 children, who at that point were 10, 7, and 3 years old.
I definitely wasn't thinking about my children when I did it, how it would affect them.
The relationship got more intense, with Robin and Craig often sneaking off to this isolated hunting cabin.
Whenever people hear about these situations, I say, this is why there's divorce, People just, sometimes these things happen and people get divorced.
It was very complicated because Carrie was very dead set against a divorce. He told me when we got married that we were going to be married for life.
Her husband was distraught, but he was no fool. A few weeks before he died, Carrie Height changed his $3.5 million life insurance policy, removing Robin as the beneficiary.
I did not find out until after Carrie passed away that he had the life insurance money put into a trust fund for our 3 children.
And his father, Philip, told Craig flat out, knock it off with your brother's wife or lose your entire inheritance.
There was a lot of tension, very heated conversations, several very heated conversations.
I gotta tell you, Robin, this is a mess.
It was a very much mess.
The weekend before the murders, August 2008, once again, Robin was at Craig's cabin.
So I had a few drinks there and ended up staying that night.
She and Craig got a rude awakening the next morning.
We heard a helicopter that sounded like it was very low.
Philip had tracked them down, enlisting a friend with a helicopter to take photos to get hard evidence of Robin's infidelity.
I looked at Craig and I said, that helicopter is here watching us.
And what was Craig's reaction to this?
Very angry, and that Carrie and Philip better watch out, or he was going to play old school on them.
Which means what?
I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure what that meant.
She then went home, where she and husband Carrie had a nasty argument.
And how did this end?
Him leaving, and he said, I'm going to go stay with Mom and Dad tonight.
Had he ever done that before?
No.
Everyone was very upset, very on pins and needles, not knowing what to say or what to do or how they could help.
And how did you expect this was going to be resolved?
I thought that Carrie and Robin would probably divorce. And then if the situation between Craig and Robin still worked out that they would be together.
Later that Sunday, Robin called her lover, Craig.
I told him that Carrie had left, and he asked me where he had gone, and I said that he had gone to his parents, and he said, okay.
It was the night of the murders.
When did you find out what had happened?
Around 5 o'clock in the morning on Monday morning. I was asleep, and I heard knocking on the door.
Detectives gave Robin the news.
I'm just gonna And the detective asked me if I knew of anyone that would have wanted to hurt Carrie and Philip. And I just said, I just can't think of anything right now. I was just in shock.
Craig doesn't just instantly occur to you?
No.
As many fights as they'd had and as much bad blood as there was at this point?
It did not come in my mind right away.
But she confronted her lover that afternoon.
I walked right up to him and I said, did you do this? And he said, I can't believe you would ask me that. I said, I need a yes or no. Did you do this? And he said, no.
And you believed him?
I did. Because the Craig Height that I know couldn't commit such an act.
Investigators weren't so sure. As Linda Height slowly recovered, they all wondered the same thing.
She's the only surviving witness of the crime.
Could she identify the killer?
Crime scene investigators have yet to leave the scene of the Heights home on Springfield, Egypt Road. Philip Height.
By noon, the day of the murders, Robin Height had admitted to investigators that the shocking rumors were true. Yes, she was having an affair with her brother-in-law, Craig.
Well, why aren't we getting indication that you had sexual relations with Robin?
But Craig was having none of it.
I am not having sex with Robin.
He says flat out, no affair.
He denied that there was an affair at all.
I know that it looks bad, but I'm going to tell you something. I couldn't do that to my brother.
How'd that make you feel?
I can't even describe how it made me feel sick.
Over the next few days, when talking with police at the crime scene, Craig made several more startling statements.
He pointed out to the officer that was present that was doing security that his shotgun was missing.
Had the officer asked about his shotgun?
No. He later said that his boots were missing.
Hadn't asked about that either?
Hadn't asked. And through conversation with both Craig and his brother, they said at one point that they thought a gas can was missing.
A shotgun, boots, a gas can, all missing, all possibly related to the crime, and all tied to Craig Height.
Did he have an alibi for that night?
No, actually, he was the only one that did not have an alibi.
Prosecutor Michael Muldrew.
So he lied about things he didn't even need to lie about. It's just his character.
I swear to you on my mama's life.
He lied, says Muldrew, even when taking a lie detector test.
What questions did he fail?
It was something to the effect of, were you holding a shotgun when your parents were killed, I believe.
That's a pretty significant question.
Yeah.
And when Agent Howard asked Craig directly, had he killed his father and brother and shot his mother in the face, Craig said he didn't know.
If he did it, he had no recollection of it.
He actually said that?
Basically, yes.
Do suspects often say this?
No. And we commonly call that in law enforcement just the wrong answer.
But the answer investigators most wanted was from the grievously wounded Linda Height. Could she identify the killer? Though improving in a Savannah hospital, she was still unable to talk. And then one day, an officer guarding Linda saw something that set off alarm bells.
Craig had entered the room, put his hand on his mother's and said, "Mom, this is Craig." And her blood pressure went from, I believe it was 98. and skyrocketed to about 140. Her eyes got really wide, and it appeared that she had been shaking as if she was afraid.
James Dingledine was on duty that day.
What did you take from that?
I took that she was scared for a reason.
Linda Height says that is ridiculous.
How do you interpret that? What do you think was going on?
I don't know. Maybe it was from hearing talk that was going on around me.
Not a fear response?
No, not a fear response.
Weeks later, investigators finally were able to interview Linda.
Could you identify the person?
I didn't see a face or anything. I did not see Craig in that room. I did not see anyone in there. The blast was what I saw.
Can you be absolutely certain that it was not Craig?
Yes, I can. I know my child. I know the man he is. I know the heart he has. He does not have a cold-blooded heart. And I can be certain that Craig did not do this to our family.
Have you ever looked him in the eye and said, Craig, son, did you do this?
Yes, I have. And he's looked me right straight in the eye and said, no, Mama, I did not do this. I couldn't do this.
But investigators zeroed in on Craig Height early on, and their case got stronger when Agent Howard followed up on a colleague's hunch.
Investigator John Bradley with the Sheriff's Department mentioned, I wonder how his arm looks.
Now, why would he say that?
Typically, that type of ammo shot from that weapon will leave a bruise.
You'll get a big kickback.
Yes.
So Howard asked Craig to take off his shirt.
There was 2 bruises on his right bicep and 1 on his left. There were 3 shots at the home that night. 1 that killed Carrie, 1 that killed Philip, and the 1 that wounded Linda. So those bruises were significant.
So even an experienced hunter would be bruised using anything that big?
I would think so. This one right here is about 48 to 50 pounds of pressure on your shoulder of recoil.
So that's a giant wallop.
It is, yes.
Wow. There's no question you'd be bruised. Is there any way to avoid it?
I don't see how, no.
But Craig insisted the bruises came not from a shotgun, but from a freak fall, a misstep in the shower that sent him headfirst over the toilet.
It was laughable. Not only was it laughable, it was scientifically and physically impossible.
The bruises, the affair, the lies, the missing items, all were circumstantial, and investigators wanted a stronger case. So the GBI just kept watching Craig Height and Robin, and so did everyone else in town.
It was very, very difficult. He was being, basically treated as the murderer, and me as a conspirator right there along with him.
And then, 4 months after the murders, Craig Height moved in with his brother's widow and their 3 kids.
What did you think when you heard this?
I think that most of the community thought it was like a slap in the face.
It didn't do anything for Craig, his appearance of innocence, for him to be staying there.
It was not smart. It was definitely not smart. And my family was telling me, do you know how this looks? I mean, then I was like, I don't really care what people think. I believe that he's innocent.
But now prosecutors had their motive. Craig wanted not just his brother's wife, but his brother's life, and had killed to get it.
He is living in his dead brother's house, sleeping in his dead brother's bed next to his dead brother's wife, is taking his dead brother's children to school, and he's driving his dead brother's truck. He has become, for all practical purposes, Carrie Height.
Nine months after the Height family murders came bombshell news. Craig Height was about to marry Robin, his dead brother's wife.
You were going to get married to Craig take the kids, get out of Effingham.
That was the plan, the future plans.
The community had some questions.
Why aren't y'all putting him in jail? I had one lady even call me and tell me I need to go see the governor and make the governor make GBI make an arrest.
Finally, in May 2009, the GBI made its move, arresting Craig Height for the murder of his brother.
Did that shake your faith in him?
No. I was convinced he was innocent and that he was being treated unfairly.
Craig also was charged with killing his father, Philip, and attempting to kill his mother, Linda. But she is convinced that her oldest son is innocent, denying suspicions that she secretly knows otherwise.
As a mother, I could not sacrifice the son that was killed and my husband that was killed to protect another son if I really thought that that son did that.
And brother Chris is just as sure.
It took a coward to walk in 3 o'clock in the morning into a dark home and do what they did to our family. That's not Craig. Craig's not a murderer.
But prosecutors think a jury will decide that's exactly what he is. On December 1st, 2010, the murder trial of Craig Height begins here in the Effingham County Courthouse.
We're here today in the case of the state of Georgia versus Craig Height.
When you sit down and dispassionately look at the evidence, it couldn't be anybody but him.
District Attorney Michael Muldrew argues that the shooting made perfect sense if you thought about it as Craig did.
The only way I'm going to have Robin Height and have peace is Mama, Daddy, and Carrie have to be eliminated from the equation. He wanted the big house. He wanted the kids that adored him. He wanted to drive around in the nice truck, to live the life of leisure of a Southern gentleman, so to speak.
Craig's lawyer, Dow Bonds, says the public perception that Craig somehow was trying to become his brother is completely distorted.
The first thing I noticed about Craig when I first met him is what a genuine person he was and what a gentleman he was. Almost entirely circumstantial, conjecture, speculation, theory. What shocked me was just the clear lack of physical evidence linking him to the murders. There was no DNA, there was no fingerprints, there were no eyewitnesses, there were no confessions.
Perhaps the prosecution's strongest physical evidence are the bruises on Craig's arms.
I was specifically asked to look at injuries to the right arm.
To the medical examiner, Dr. Downs, the explanation is obvious.
I think they're very consistent with someone who had fired a shotgun.
I stepped out of this tub like this right here.
But Craig sticks to his story that he got the bruises in that bizarre bathroom tumble onto the toilet.
Now, I fell like that right there and landed on the commode like that right there.
An event he recreated with himself in the starring role.
Craig, are you okay? What in the world happened? Well, here I am, buck naked, you know. And I said, no, don't come, nobody come in here.
The video was made before Craig Height had a lawyer.
If I had been representing him at that time, I would have said, you know, a reenactment's not a good idea.
So you hit right up in here? I guess, I mean, I know that whenever I wound
But if you look at what Craig was thinking at the time he did that, he was trying to assist them in their investigation, and he was cooperating with them.
I mean, it just all happened so fast, that's just how I wound up, you know?
Prosecutor Muldrew shows the video in court, telling the jury Craig could not possibly have gotten those bruises falling on a toilet.
To have happened like that is truly impossible.
They started calling me Tidy Bowl Man.
Most people that saw it literally laughed at this reenactment he did.
They laughed?
They laughed. It was silly.
Brother Chris Height was not laughing, then or now.
The position of the bruises on Craig's body were actually impossible to make from a shotgun.
Chris says a shotgun would have to be held at a ridiculous angle to get those bruises, and Craig knew better. But in the heat of murder,
it can come off this way.
Firearms expert Myrick thinks a shotgun easily could slip.
And if it does, it's going to get more on my arm, which is going to leave more bruising and it's going to hurt me more.
So in an ideal world, if you were shooting, the bruising would be here.
Correct.
But if you're maneuvering around something or in a hurry or whatever, you can also suffer bruises on more toward the outside of your arm.
Exactly. If this gun slips at all, it will fall towards your arm and it will definitely tear you alive.
What do you believe Craig Height did that night?
It's not really a matter of what I believe he did, it's what I know he did.
For Muldrew, the key to the case against Craig is quite literally a key.
He knew something that very few people knew, and that is the location and presence of another key, an outside key, which people commonly have.
The prosecutor thinks Craig smashed the pane of glass to fake a burglary, when in reality, he simply opened the door with that spare key.
He knew where that key would have been located. He took that key, opened the door, went in.
The cops later found that key in the door. Once inside, according to Muldrew, Craig methodically went room to room, shooting his brother, his father, and his mother. All for the love of Robin.
Do you think their affair had anything whatsoever to do with the murders?
She's definitely responsible for Kerry being in the home that night, 100%. If Kerry was living happily at his house, he'd have never been at my mother and father's that night.
His mother and brother stand by him.
Ms. Height, if you would please come to the witness stand.
But if Craig Height thinks his former lover and sister-in-law is still with him, he's about to get a nasty shock.
When I looked at him, I just felt disgust. Disgust at the affair. Disgust at just him, period.
Ms. Height, if you would please come to the witness stand.
Only 7 months after she planned to walk down the aisle to marry Craig Height, Robin Height instead walked to the witness box to testify against him.
Yes, I do.
Murder charges will do that.
I wasn't comfortable with the relationship anymore.
After some soul searching, Robin says she realized the man she'd once loved just might be a murderer.
And I would finally allow things to come into my mind and in my heart, there is this chance that he could have done this.
She knew he was lying to her, she says, especially when he said he and Kerry had patched things up before the shootings.
The only things coming out of Kerry's mouth about Craig were negative.
But the jurors apparently were getting that same negative vibe about everything Robin said.
The way she threw him under the bus, that told you right there. She just used him.
And these jurors weren't ready to throw Craig Height under the bus without anything, that directly linked him to the murder scene.
Blood, fingerprints, DNA. Where's the gun? Nobody wanted to put a man away for life, without it.
That was precisely the message defense attorney Dow Bonds wanted to get across.
In every single critical bit of evidence, they want you to make a leap of faith. This is a court of law. This is not a time to take leaps of faith on another man's life here.
But the defense had no qualms about appealing to the jury's emotions.
Please look at this letter. Do you recognize the handwriting on that letter?
Yes, it's Philip's.
Asking Linda to read a letter her husband had written 2 weeks before the murders. Proof, Bonds said, that Craig had made peace with his dad and had no reason to kill him.
Son, I appreciate everything you do. Remember, family is important, and we will always be there for each other. Love, Dad.
Prosecutors pointed out the letter never was sent.
This man desperately wanted his son to start behaving correctly.
And although certainly heart-wrenching, they called it irrelevant.
I'm sure at the time he wrote the letter, he hoped that this might somehow resolve itself so that the family isn't torn apart.
Craig Height never took the stand, and on day 8 of the trial, the case went to the jury.
The first vote I voted not guilty.
I was leaning toward a guilty vote, but I guess I wanted to make sure that we looked at everything as closely as we possibly could.
Initially, the jury split 8-4 not guilty.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the court's informed that you have reached a verdict.
But after just 6 hours, that changed.
We, the jury, found the defendant, Craig Height, guilty.
The verdict was guilty. The jury convicting Craig Height on all 11 counts of murder, battery, burglary, and attempted arson.
Aggravated assault with a deadly weapon.
What went through your mind when you heard those words?
Oh, my Lord, no way. This can't be happening. I've got to see if I can see Craig tonight. So I did. I went to the jail and saw him.
And how was he?
Very emotional.
So what made the jury convict?
Once I seen the bruises, that was like, yeah, he's guilty.
It was his gun missing, and to me, that was the hardest evidence.
Well, it's the constant lying about everything and, telling things before they were even asked.
Craig and his family were devastated and frustrated, insisting he didn't get a fair trial.
In my opinion, and in a lot of the community's opinion, the trial should have never taken place in Effingham County.
The judge sentenced him to the maximum, 2 life terms plus 85 years, making parole almost impossible.
So how did you find out the verdict?
A friend of mine told me.
And the sentence?
I felt like it was fair.
2 life terms plus 85 years?
Mm-hmm.
You felt like that was fair? I mean, there has to be a part of you that was heartbroken over this.
Well, I'm not rejoicing, but I feel like they have the right person.
But do authorities have all the right people? Even today, some jurors aren't sure.
Robin Height was a manipulative person who stopped at nothing to get what she wanted.
I think Robin played him like a fiddle.
Is there any real evidence to link Robin to the crimes?
Where along the spectrum do you think her actions fall?
I have to go by the evidence. And based upon her testimony she gave against him, or did not appear at the time, that she was participating in any plan.
And you believe her?
I didn't say that. I said we have to go by the evidence.
Today, life in Effingham County has returned to normal, or as near normal as it can be in a small community where so many suspicions linger.
Do you see much of Robin these days?
Seems like we run into her quite often around the county.
And how would you describe the community's take on her right now?
The community still wants to know when we're going to arrest her.
Well, are you going to arrest her?
If we find evidence that she's done something wrong, by all means.
Robin says that never will happen because there is no evidence to find.
I know I didn't do anything. I didn't conspire with Craig. I didn't wish any harm on Carrie or Mr. Phillip or Miss Linda.
You've forgiven yourself?
I have. And I know that God's forgiven me.
Do you think the family has forgiven you?
The Height family? I'm not really sure. You'd have to ask them.
What is your view on Robin's role, if any, in this whole awful thing?
I really would rather not comment on that.
For Linda Height, healing has been a much slower process.
When you look at the future now, and I assume you're doing your best to look ahead, what do you see for the Height family?
I see life. I see hope. I see love. I see truth. I see justice. And one day, peace.